Hi, this is Seb from Aeon, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, episode number 164. And today's guest, we're talking to Seb Nilsson. He's the guitarist and founding member of the band Aeon, a death metal band from Sweden that's been around since the late 90s, early 2000s. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into metal, what made him want to play guitar, as well as going through the history of Aeon. So, without further ado, let's go talk to Seb. So what's up, guys? I am here with
Yeah.
Zeb Nilsson from the almighty Aeon. How you doing today, man?
Hey, man.
Man,
I
it's
think I recognize you. Have we met or have we done an interview previous?
no, no. This is actually the first Aeon interview I've done for the channel. So
Okay.
great to finally have Aeon on the show. Oh, so kind of like the format
Yeah.
is, I want to sort of like talk about like your musical journey and sort of like do a rundown of your discography. But to be back to young Zeb Nilsson, so kind of growing up in Sweden, what were the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to play guitar?
Oh, yeah. First of all, what got me into metal? That's a tough one. I like when I was a kid, probably like 5 or 6 years old. When I first heard heavy metal, I was like, "Wow, what the hell was that?" Uh, so I really wanted to, get a hold of that, which I eventually did. Um, but like bands like Wasp, Twisted Sister. I was more into like I wasn't a big fan of you know bands like Kiss at that point. They came like later for me. I wanted something heavier, so more Wasp and uh, stuff like that. Eventually got into Metallica, of course, and Slayer and all that, and eventually into death metal. But what got me into playing guitar, I can't really remember that, but probably stuff like Metallica.
Yeah. And I believe like before Aeon, like it was you were originally in a band called Deface Creation, but before that it was like called Unorthodox. Can you talk to me about like that? Because I don't think really nobody ever talks
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, uh, yeah. That was basically Jürgen who asked me if I wanted to join. It was first of all it was him, me, and another guy, which later on, yeah, we started to calling us unorthodox, but I don't really know why we changed name, but I guess probably some other band named that or something. Um, and later on, we had, I think, yeah, we only did one gig actually with that, under that, forum. So we got Tommy to join us on vocals, and yeah, basically evolved from there. Later on, at that time, we only had programmed drums because we couldn't find a drummer who would, fit the bill. But eventually, we found R2 who joined the band, and yeah, and after we did a tour actually with Dying Fetus and Deranged, was the first tour for Dying Fetus in Europe. So that was kind of cool. We got to see them, and yeah, we got after that we released the album that we put out. We had done some singles and EPs before that, and then we split up, and I still were making music, um, and I asked like the guys previous from Aeon, like Johan who played bass and Tommy who did vocals and Arthur who did drums. Um, so asked if they wanted to, help me out with the recording, and so we did, and we all got pretty excited because it turned out pretty cool. And so I think we sent it to some record labels, and we actually got a deal with um,
Was it the Dark Order
Necropolis
EP?
Records.
Yeah, was it the Dark Order
Yeah,
EP that came out in 2001? Tell me about like that. Where's that
yeah.
recorded? Because it sounds just very raw sounding.
Yeah. It's because it was originally recorded as a demo, so we put it out as an EP. They just want we like the recording, and that's what they told us. So they wanted to put it out as an EP. So we did that, and after that, we it was try to remember. Yeah, Eric from Unique Leader. He contacted us and he said he sold a lot of the Dark Order EP. When if I remember right, I think he sold those EPs when they were touring. You know, he had for some reason they sold our CDs,
Yeah.
and so he wanted to make something with us, and we so that's when we put out Leaving the Falls on Unique.
Yeah, yeah, but tell me about like making
Yeah,
the
there you got it.
debut album, because like what was like the thought process going into this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we I remember when I had a hard time, you know, after the EP, wanted to, you know, make new songs, and I remember Soul Burner was probably one of the first songs that I wrote. I did that one, and I did. Oh, I'm so bad to remember titles and stuff. God Gives Head, and probably Bow Your Heads. So we only had those three songs for a long period of time. And
Yeah.
then Daniel joined the band, and I think he and me we kind of exchanged ideas. I guess we started making new songs, and after a while, R2 said he wanted to quit the band, and he wanted Nils to join the band instead of him.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to do a rehearse, and Art was let's go ask Nils now because he was in the same building and he was always there, hammering his kit. He was always practicing every day for at least 1.5 hours, 2 hours or something. So he was there. He didn't really have a big band back then. He had his project, I guess. And so we went up and Arthur told, "Hey Nils, I'm gonna quit Aeon and I want you to replace me." And Nils was like, "Okay, yeah, I want to do that." So the next day we started rehearse with Nils, and like that was kind of funny because he was, of course, already back then he was an extraordinary drummer, and
Yeah.
if there was anything he couldn't do, he would go there the next day and really practice until he nailed it. So that's kind of sick. And yeah, we think from that point, I think we started, moving at a faster pace with the writing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, but I
yeah,
still think this is a great debut. I especially love how you did like an acoustic
yeah,
version of God Gives Head in Heaven, which is really
oh yeah,
interesting. I know it was kind of like a kind of like a joke kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was basically a joke, you know. But we kind of felt like let's have it as a hidden track. So yeah, that's how it ended up. And yeah, what else? Something really cool about that recording is that Nils he only recorded the drums 2 evenings, like 2 days,
Wow.
and they're all one takes. There's no punch in or anything like that, and there's no editing. Only editing on it is like on the cymbals, because we had usually you only have room mics, and you have maybe a close up like a mic on the hi hat or the right or whatever, but we had it on all the cymbals and everything. And so the room mics were like as they're supposed to be, like they were catching it all. And the more close up mics, we kind of trimmed down the audio, like so there's only the attack basically on the in the mix. You get what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the only editing as far as the drum.
Yeah. And then Ben, when Bleeding the Falls first came out, did you start like touring outside of Sweden for the first time, or was it still just kind of local?
No, we actually in 2006 in I think it was probably yeah, it was in April 2006. We did a European tour with Cannibal Corpse. That's like the first tour we did with them. And yeah, and I remember that was kind of surreal because we all grew up with Cannibal Corpse and of course love their music. And like when we first met them, they was, oh, we're so excited about this. Oh, like they were such a huge fan of us. And we were like, wait a minute, we're the fans here. And so that was kind of cool. And I remember Alex, he was like, you gotta talk to Metal Blade. Oh yeah, yeah, well, because he told me that Brian was such a huge fan. So I got in contact after that tour. I got in contact with Brian, and he was, yeah, I, like I gave a short introduction of me and the band and what we were up to at that point, and he was like, yeah, I already know about your band. We all got everything you released, and we all love it here at the office. So let's make a deal. So you know,
Yeah.
so we were actually the only, as far as I know, we were the only European band signed to the American office. Like we had our contact people in the States, which is kind of, I think we're the only band who actually did that.
Yeah. And then tell me about the second album is Rise to Dominate, because usually with the debut album you have like your entire life to write and there's a lot of hype
Yeah,
with the first album. When it came to making Rise to
yeah.
Dominate, did you feel like pressure to follow up Bleeding the Falls?
Um, no, I don't think I don't recall feeling that at that point. But we um, no, I think that writing process went quite smooth and kind of fast. And yeah, I remember we like as we were releasing that, we were supposed to be on the Metal Bay 25th anniversary tour with Cannibal Corpse, and I don't remember all the bands, but it was a pretty big deal. And, and they had this like the release of the album where supposed to be as the tour was starting and everything. But that's when actually Neil joined Dark Funeral. So we had to cancel because he was like, well, I didn't think our tour was going to happen anyway. So
Oh
so
wow.
we had to cancel. And yeah, so that's when he first left the band for a while. And after a while, he came back. So he were in both Dark Funeral and our band.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
there were
Yeah.
actually no touring for that album.
Oh damn. I just think this is a
Oh
really
wait,
yeah,
yes, it actually was. We did some tour. We did a European run with Hate Eternal and Misery Index 2009.
yeah. Yeah, and I still think this is a really great album. Like I feel like you capture like the essence of the brutality on
Yeah,
this album with like the crunching guitar riffs that just pound through every track. And I feel like they
yeah,
pretty much resemble one another, but it doesn't get boring. It feeds off like one another, building up for like the next song. It just feels like it just leads into perfectly with all the songs.
yeah. Cool, thank you. Yeah, like if, among the older albums, that one is my favorite.
Yeah. And that's probably like my favorite Aeon album when it comes to listening to you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then next up is Path of Fire. I love this album. What was it like going from
Yeah.
this to this?
I didn't see which one you held up. That was it from Rise to Dominate to Path of Fire.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, yeah, at that point, I remember Nils, he was living in Austria at that time. And so we yeah, after the tour we did with Hate Eternal, we started, talking to Eric Rutan about him um recording or just mixing the album. And I remember he really wanted us to come over to Florida and record at his studio and everything, but that never happened. So we recorded in the same studio over here, as we did with the previous one. Um, and so Eric, he did the mix, and he had someone really good have it mastered too. Um, and Yeah, it was a bit different from all the other albums because we recorded all the vocals, all the and all the guitars and bass with we recorded it over programmed drums. And when we were done, Nils actually flew over to Sweden to do his work, with the drums. So that's a bit different.
Yeah.
Usually you have the drums recorded first and then you record everything else.
Yeah, because he's like one of the fastest drummers I've heard, and he just plays well, especially with songs like
Yeah,
Inheritance, Forgiveness Denied, and even I Will Burn. I feel like it
yeah,
shows like great. Well, it just loves how his drumming just has like great synchronization with the guitar. It's just good and
yeah,
it's just fast as fuck.
yeah. Yeah, we actually, that's kind of funny because I remember I really wanted to put out more heavy songs when we started writing process on that one, but for some reason that's probably the fastest album we have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, of course, like the vocals. I feel like the vocals remind me a little bit of like Nathan Explosion from the Death Metal Eclipse, if you're familiar with like Death Clock, but it's a completely different style. And I feel like Tommy sort of like sung those lyrics
okay,
rather than speak them out. And I feel like it kind of beats Rise to Dominate, even though it's a still pretty much
yeah,
good album. I pretty much put it up there equally to that. I feel like it could have been like the sibling to it in a way.
okay, yeah,
Yeah. And then your last album, Aeon's Black. I like this album. Pretty much, in my opinion, the
yeah,
underrated that album of yours discography. Like, tell me about like this. I don't think really nobody talks about this one these days, in my opinion.
okay, no, yeah. At that time, we had yeah, Nils. I think that was when Nils moved to Australia. Um, so we actually had R2 come back to the band, like the original drummer, if you remember. And So he wasn't really as fast as Nils. So all the songs are a bit slower than like for the last one before that one. But I really love that album. That's one of my favorites too. I think it's kind of, yeah, it's really heavy, really groovy, and we had first time we had Ronnie do the both the recording and the mixing as well. So yeah, I think like the overall sound is really great on that one. The guitar tone is killer. Um,
Yeah, and I sort of love like the instrumentation on here, especially like the little interludes, like the voice of the accuser
yeah,
going right into "I Wish Your Death" or Neptune the
yeah,
Mystic going into "Nothing Left to Destroy." Oh yeah, I just feel like
yeah,
I just love like the little instrumentals sort of like take a little break, and it perfectly gives the listener a chance to breathe before going into the next song. I just love how it's like it
yeah,
balanced perfectly.
yeah. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, and especially like the Neptune the Mystic. I feel like I've loved like the death metal. You made it like your own version of the orchestral piece of the same name. So, what kind of
Yeah,
inspired you to like do sort of like like a your own like interpretation of an orchestral piece from like the 1915?
yeah, yeah. That was. I remember it was my idea, and I did like the translation, if you want to call it that. Um, but the whole actually like the following up song. What's that called? What's the name of that song?
Neptune, Nothing Left to Destroy.
Nothing Left to Destroy. Yeah, that's the one. that one was supposed to be a little faster, and the Neptune was supposed to be a bit slower. So like you would have more of a heavier thing going into a really fast one. And you know, for some reason, like no one but there were only R2 and Ronnie at the studio when he did the recording for the drums. So it didn't end up the way it was supposed to be, but I think it's still kind of cool. Um, but yeah, I don't remember how like my thoughts back then, but I remember I wanted to make some kind of interlude, like some, but not like like with synthesizers or samplers. I wanted us to play the interlude instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course this was the last album for like almost a decade. So I was curious, what was like the reason for like almost decade wait between Aeon's Black and the last album, God Ends Here?
Yeah, that was basically we did we tore uh, a lot like from let's see now 2013 we started Aeon's Black came out in November 2012 or December, and we started touring for that one in January 2013. And yeah, I remember we did some touring Japan, America, Europe, England. And after that, Daniel actually he wanted to call it quits because I think he got a little burnt out, with all that, and I think he kind of forgot why he were playing music for a while there. And so that's we had like let's see, we did two tours with Ronnie. We actually asked him to join the band, and he did. So we did uh, a long European run for like 7 weeks with Revocation and Cannibal Corpse. And after that, we got home for a month or two, and then we went to America, did a North American tour with Cannibal and Cannibal again, and Behemoth and Tribulation, Sweden. So we did that tour, uh, going home back, and another few months, and then back to America again. And after that, we had Emil, who was our drummer at this point. He joined uh, another bigger band, uh, and after a while, he like any tour or any gig, he were if he were given 2 weeks notice, he would have to do so. If we were having a American tour, and if he within you know 2 weeks prior to that tour, he had to take that, so we couldn't really deal with that. So we started looking for another drummer, and we never found one. And years flew by, and like in 2018 or 2019, let's see now. I don't remember exactly when we were supposed to, like, anyhow, years flew by pretty fast, and then COVID hit us, and we didn't want to release it
Yeah.
during the pandemic and lockdown. But in the end, we kind of like, okay, we can't just sit here and wait anymore. Let's put it out, and we kind of put it out at the same time as things were getting better with the pandemic and lockdowns.
Yeah, because on this
So
album
that's
you're saying.
basically,
Yeah, because I know on this album you
yeah,
had Janif Yalma from Dark Funeral role play drums on this, and if you
yeah,
could see, I had him sign this right here from when I saw
yeah.
him play with Cannibal
Oh
last
yeah,
year. Here, and I remember I've
yeah,
actually had him on the
yeah. That's cool.
and I asked him about it, and apparently you hooked you hit him up like asking like, hey, do you want to play drums on this? And he was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I recognized you, because I
Oh
saw
yeah.
that clip.
Oh nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was Daniel who sent me the clip, actually. Yeah. So
Cool. Cool, gives me more exposure. But tell me about like the
Yeah,
making of the of God ends here. Like being as it has been like was a 9 year gap between Aeon's Black and God ends here. What was this kind of like picking up where you left off, or was that
yeah.
kind of like a fresh new start for Aeon in a way?
No, both, I would say. We actually, that's funny when you say it like that, because we actually wanted to literally pick pick up where we left. Because if you listen to how Aeon's Black ends, you have the like the those melodic guitars that is they're recorded, and then put we reversed them, and so and then they fade out, and on God Ends Here they fade in, same melody, uh, and we have like that, also another like instrumental intro, um, which we actually named the Nihilist
Yeah,
to, you know, we were actually thinking of LG Petrov, who passed away during like the whole mixing process, or when maybe when we still were recording. I don't really remember now, but he was a good friend of ours, so we wanted to pay some respect.
cool.
Um, so that's the reason for the title of that opening thing.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
just think it's
yeah,
a perfect lead in into Liar's Den.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, so basically what we wanted to do different with this one, we kind of, usually write, songs and put them together. We actually kind of zoomed out and wanted to look at it more like, let's have some different themes that, comes from time to time. So there are actually some of the interludes that are the same as, you know, if you listen to the title track, for example, you hear the bass line in the beginning. That's the same melody as a lot of the interludes have, with different instruments and choirs and stuff. So that's one of the themes
Yeah,
that we're
yeah.
using. So, but I don't think people really got that. Like if you watch a James Bond movie, you have the James Bond theme come at you know um, with and usually it's a bit different, performed from time to time. We wanted to do that, we wanted to. So that's something different we wanted to bring to the table for this album. But for some reason, I don't think people really got that, because I like some of the reviews that I watched, like some video reviews, they were like, they really think it was annoying that stuff were coming and sounding exactly the same. Yeah, but that was the whole point, really.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's death metal, you don't want to like experiment. I mean, some bands can do it, but do it if do it, but sometimes it can work,
Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it's almost like the damned if you do, damned if you
yeah,
don't. Because if you have like a thing that you stick with,
yeah,
people say you're repetitive, but if you kind of like experiment or veer away too much, that people say you're inconsistent. But at the end of the day, you got to like stick to what you believe in.
yeah. Because usually we got, people are annoyed that we don't bring anything new. You like there's so many other bands that sound like exactly like us. And you know, when we try to do something different, that's bad too.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, this was like I said with the latest album. I know it was like during like recorded like during like the whole pandemic. Did like the pandemic at all sort of like influence the writing of God Ends Here, or did you want to try to like keep it like a separate from that?
Um, can you do that question again?
Again, when you recorded God Ends Here, because it was during like the whole pandemic and everything did the pandemic at all
Yeah.
sort of influence the album, or what did you want to make it forget about
Oh,
it and just keep it separate?
well, the only thing that was a bit different, was basically we didn't, book a studio to for the recording. We all recorded at like in our own homes. and then we had like Ronnie do the mix. We only went to a studio here in our hometown to do the reamping for the guitars. So we like that was the first time we did it like that. But we kind of missed going into the studio, so I don't think we're going to do that again. We will probably record together because it's kind of you can sometimes you can hear there's a slight like not on the album, but as we were progressing with the recording, you could hear like we don't play exactly the same thing over here. So who's playing what? Who's the one to blame really?
Yeah.
And so if you're in the same room, it's easier to get everyone to know what part of the song are you talking about, and because that was a bit pain in the ass really when we were recording like this. So I don't think we're gonna do that again.
Yeah.
So, but besides that, it wasn't anything different, with the pandemic.
Yeah, but of course, with Daniel sort of like returning to Aeon after a while you
Yeah,
had that sort of like motivation to create again. What was sort of like the
yeah,
inspirations that eventually led to the creation of God Ends Here?
um, yeah. It's the same as usual. Really, and that I remember I was really happy when Daniel returned. That really gave me a lot of inspiration to, start writing even more. This is like I think we had like maybe 7 or 8 songs that didn't make it to the album, and so we had a lot of material. But it's the same as always: Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, um, you know, um, Deicide, you know, bands like that. Morbid Angel, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first thing I remember hearing myself of the album, since like you were so adamant with like the anti-religious themes throughout the band's career, that you always find a way to show people that no one is protected, prayers are of no use. Just take a look at what's going on worldwide. Is like the album by any means sort of like sticking people in their eyes, especially those who sort of like refuse to like listen?
Hopefully, I don't know really. I don't think I never wrote any lyrics for this one. It was Tony, and Tony actually did two lyrics for his own songs. But besides, it's basically Tommy's lyrics, and he's the one. Uh, I don't think I could answer that question really.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was also glad to bear witness while listening that you preserve sort of like your roots with the old school death metal traits. Yet I feel like it seems that doors and opportunities were open with the musical aspects of God Ends Here, which made the album kind of varied in
Yeah.
different fields lately. How do you like find the musical progress of the band while the record was in the works?
Mm, that's a tricky one. I don't really know. I don't really think of stuff like that.
Right. And the album itself is like constructed. I feel like it almost feels like it could be a concept album. Well, it could be, but I feel like it is correct to
Yeah,
me. Like like the selection of like the instrumentals is like something displaying kind of similar to like Aeon's
yeah,
Black with like displaying the cinematic type, the right rupturing people's spleens with just the tough heaviness.
yeah,
Like sort of like the intros, kind of like a marker for the beginnings or endings, or sort of like the chapters for the record.
yeah. Yeah, really, that was the intention, yes. To like it's not a concept album by lyric wise, like if you would listen to King Diamond, but we wanted really to give the impression, if you listen to it, it was supposed to feel like a concept album like King Diamond with, like you said, like different chapters. So, you know, I think we actually try to do that with already back on Aeon's Black as well, but I think we took it even further on this one. So that's really cool that you noticed that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think like you're a great songwriter, no doubt, and you can't trade anything for experience. But I believe that sort of like new tricks can be learned on a daily basis. What did like the songwriting
Oh yeah.
process of God Ends Here teach you? Were there like lessons of the past that help you like apply to the album?
Yeah, we didn't like we did some different songs. Like the title track, for example, is a lot different from like the previous stuff. So we already back on Aeon's Black, I decided I'm not gonna, care if it feels like it fits Aeon or not. It's not like I'm gonna write, pop music or melodic death metal or anything like that. But if it sounds cool and heavy or brutal, it will fit. So I feel more freedom to write my own music since I started to think like that. And for this one, I remember when I came up with the idea for the title track, I was like, I don't know really. Maybe I should do something else with this or something. But like the guys were like, let's try to do something with it. And yeah, we it turned out pretty cool. And a lot of reviews has like really, you know, seemed to really enjoy the title track, which is kind of funny because it's so different from. So, you know, if we learn something, probably that, you can do whatever you want. It's your own band, your own freedom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, being as it has been like 2 years since God Ends Here, have you all started working on the next Aeon album? What's like the status with that?
yeah, we have a few new songs, which, but we are like, we don't have we only had a deal with Metal Blade for 4 albums, which we now have released. And, since we're not a touring band, um, because we don't have any drummer, they they said they want their bands to tour, so they didn't really want to, continue working with us, which is fine. We totally understand that. Um, so here we are now. We may have found like a drummer, but we don't know yet. So like the whole idea for us here now, we don't have a record label, we don't have a drummer. So the idea is to actually try to put out singles digitally on Spotify and Apple Music, stuff like that, and like have different like guest drummers to for different songs, really. Um, so that's like the whole process where we're at now. The whole idea, how we're moving on from here. So like maybe write 5 or 6 songs, record them with you know same amount of drummers, and put them out you know every now and then and see how that works. That's you know I don't know. Maybe it'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? So
Yeah,
before we go Zeb, I just want to say it was great to be able to talk with you today. Is there just
yeah.
anything else you'd like to plug to sort of wrap up this interview?
Oh shit. Yeah, really bad at that. No, nothing comes to mind. Thank you for a good interview, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great to be able to talk with you. So
Yeah.
everybody, Seb from Aeon, we'll see you next time.